It's Primus Tracks with Josh and Frankie.
What a couple of dumb shits.
I wish I was that cool. I've got lemon tea in front of me.
All right, it's lovely. I like tea.
Oh, yeah. It'll help my concentration, I'm sure.
I like to party. Woo!
Yes! Yes! Oh, see, there we go. We got a special guest.
I got my buddy with me. This is Fred.
Is Fred available to answer questions too?
I'm going to answer questions, but I don't know if he can talk without a larynx. Fred was out in the yard during Halloween time, and when we cleaned up the yard, I told them, I said, hey, Fred's coming down into my studio with me. I like Fred.
Fred's all right. Sometimes it's nice to have those people around that don't talk much.
Yeah, well, I also have an affinity for skulls and bones and stuff like that. I'm kind of a weirdo, but, whatever.
Well, it's that time of year. So I know that I've got a bunch of stuff I want to ask you about and kind of probe your musicality and your life in music, going pretty far back, if you don't mind. So,
I don't care.
Cool.
It's all free game to me. If I don't feel comfortable answering it, I'll give you a bullshit answer. How about that?
Oh, those are my favorite. That sounds great. Okay. And then, and I know Frankie's favorite thing to do is to ask about real specific stuff. So he's going to try to stump you at some point.
Well, I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. I have about 2 brain cells left that I have to rub together to spark an idea, so I'll do my best.
Yeah, man. That sounds great. Yeah.
Well, can I swear? Because I always fucking swear.
Please. Yeah, of course.
Please do. And
because as soon as you say don't swear, that's all I will do. And I'll say, oh, shit, I fucked up again. But if you say I can swear, I don't even have to think about it, and then watch me not even use any blue.
Yeah. I guess I want to, if you don't mind, starting with, you've got this really gregarious personality or that air about you. Is that something that you've always had, or did you cultivate that over the years?
No, actually, you know what? I am really mellow compared to what I was when I was young.
Uh-huh. I
couldn't sit down and have a conversation. I couldn't even sit down until I was 40.
Wow. Yeah,
I was all over the place. I mean, when you go into the classrooms that I was a part of when I was like in elementary school, there'd be, 4 or 5 nice rows all in a row with all the kids. And then there was always that one desk that was behind the teacher's desk in the corner. That was my spot every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Did they engrave your name on there and just move you up with the desk each grade or what?
Yeah, that would have been smart, but I think that would have encouraged me to be like,
Well, I can relate. I had that for, I'd say, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and then I started to figure it out some. So,
dude, not me, dude. I was a menace from day one.
Well, I'm curious. Then, were you doing not voices, but were you singing and doing music then, or did that come later for you, maybe as an outlet?
Well, that's a very good question. I didn't start playing guitar until I was in high school. However, I was always singing and writing and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and all in my head, but vocalizing a lot. So I would say yes, but technically not like very well. Like I would sing songs and goof off and never thought that would be like a vocation I would go into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I was a part of this gifted program, and then we used to do a lot of videos. So, I mean, it was before videotape. These were all like silent films and animation. And
right.
So that was pretty cool. Even though all my teachers told me I was a dipshit and I had to go and sit in the corner, twice a week I would go and be part of the gifted class for a couple hours every week. And then we would go and make films and write radio plays. And so I was always like, hyper creative.
So at that point, you already had, it sounds like you might have already had at least an outlet, but do you feel like that contributed to the direction you took?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were kids and part of the gifted program, we would write radio shows, and we actually performed these shows on college radio, and we would go around and we would show our films at San Francisco State University.
Oh, wow.
And then, like, the neighbor kids, we would get together, and if somebody had, like, their dad's camera or something like 8mm or whatever, like, we'd make these stupid little films. And we would also do the little cassette tape recorders, and we would tape record these radio shows just for ourselves. It was just a lot of fun, just goofing off, you know?
So you were kind of around creative people who were about your age, but then you're going around and showing this off to people, older people and other creative people. So you must have had quite a circle around you.
Yeah, we didn't give a shit about the old farts. We didn't care about that. We were all doing it for ourselves, just like when we were playing in the punk rock and metal bands. We didn't care about anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, in those days, we couldn't even get gigs. We had to put our own gigs on because we weren't old enough to play any of the established clubs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was curious about that too, because you came of age. As you're coming of age, you know, the Bay Area scene is starting to take off, right? And you're
right.
And I wonder, were you know, you said you guys had to set up your own shows and that sort of thing, but did you guys have a realization that you were geographically at least somewhat in proximity to the scene as it was, and trying to be a part of that?
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Are you speaking of, well, let me ask you, what scene are you speaking of?
Kind of that Bay Area scene of the 80s, 90s where a lot of these
the East Bay thrash metal scene.
Yeah, that one for sure. And then in San Francisco with bands like Primus Faith No More, and that kind of.
So pre 83, 84, 85, I was in the band Blind Illusion, fresh out of high school with Les.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other guys, and the leader of the band was Mark Biederman. And this was before Metallica. Exodus had just got together, and all we played was keg parties. So we played keg parties is what we did before we figured out that we could rent like Veterans Hall or whatever like that and throw our own gigs. But like the first Exodus show I went to was on Road 20 or Giant Road somewhere in El Sobrante, and it was Jeff Andrews from El Cerrito High School on bass. It was Kirk on guitar and Tom Hunting on drums, and he sang. And that was it. They were a trio.
Oh, wow.
And I was the guy from El Cerrito High School, where the rest of the Blind Illusion guys were all from De Anza in El Sobrante. They went to school with Kirk and them.
Right.
And we would just play cake parties. And even before I was in Blind Illusion, I was in a couple other bands, and all we did was play, you know, cake parties. Yeah. And we would do, you know, covers and some of our own originals. And it was probably pretty horrible, but, you know.
But at that point, it sounds like, based on the chronology, you'd pretty much just picked up guitar at that point.
Pretty much. I mean, you know, I started, I don't know, messing around with it, taking lessons when I was like 15. And then I started getting kind of confident on it like 16, 17. It kind of all came together when I was 18.
Wow.
And that was in 81. And that's when we started like throwing our own concerts and doing stuff like that and getting with other bands. And that's when the whole metal scene started in the Bay Area started kind of bubbling up.
Right. So you were kind of riding that first wave. Like you were in it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? At the time, I didn't know. They were just my friends. We didn't know that, you know, 30, 40 years later, we'd be like, oh, my God, it was amazing. It's the start of this whole thing. Blah, blah, blah. We didn't fucking know.
Yeah.
We didn't care. We just did our own thing, wrote our own music, and played did our own shows.
Yeah. You know, I'm curious about that because I grew up in Iowa, and even before, and I live in Southern Oregon now, but before moving out this way or visiting California the first time, it was always this mythical place, you know, for a Midwestern kid. And I just figured everybody was a rock star or a surfer or something out that way. That's why I ask about the scene or being a part of it. But it sounds like you guys were very DIY from the get-go.
That was from the get-go. And then when like Ruthie's Inn started happening, and when the old Waldorf had Metal Mondays, and when Wolfgang started playing, getting, you know, kids could go and play shows, and the Keystone and the Stone, and then the Omni later in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was the Mabuhay, and then there was a bunch of like punk rock gigs like Gilman Street, and all this other stuff kind of just started bubbling up. And we ended up we're able to play, and then like from the 80s all the way through the 90s into, I don't know, I would say maybe the beginning of the 2000s. You could go out and and the scene would move around, but it would be in Oakland or in Berkeley or especially in San Francisco or up in the North Bay and Petaluma. And you could go out multiple times during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and go see a great band, a great show, a great local show. And there was just tons and tons and tons of great, great acts. Some of them went on to be some of the biggest rock stars and the biggest bands in the world. And some of them, no one's ever heard of, but they were still fantastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I recall talking to somebody about that scene, and at that time that a lot of these bands would, and maybe you did this too, you were playing so many gigs, but then you would have limitations on, geographic area or whatever. Well, you can't play a show, in this area again for the rest of the week or something, whatever. But a lot of these bands would just play under a different name right down the street at a different club.
Well, what I remember, the first thing that was weird is when John Nady from Nady Wireless bought the Omni and the Stone and the Keystone Palo Alto, is that right? They had the pay-to-play thing where you had to buy tickets from the venue, and then you had to go and sell them to your friends. It was, it was kind of a what do you call that? It was a racket.
Yeah, they made you the middleman.
But that was the first thing that was weird, and then it wasn't until later on in the 90s and early 2000s that I recall the geographic. Like, you can't play here 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. Because back in those days, man, we were just hustling. And I remember someone was pissed off because I booked a M.I.R.V show on Haight Street, and then we played South of Market later on that night. But both shows were packed, but they were pissed off. And I'm like, why are you pissed off? Everybody went to both shows. Who cares? Everybody made money. It was a great show. It was super fun. Who cares?
Yeah, so you're coming up against that, that idea of competition between venues, but you're packing them anyway.
I mean, if you're lucky enough to have a bunch of friends, I mean, we used to do crazy shit to get people to our shows. We would host giant cake parties at our house, and then everybody would go to the show afterwards. I mean, we'd do all kinds of stuff. We would play different sets all the time. We would do cover sets just to get people to come and we'd do interesting things, especially in the M.I.R.V days. We had all our funny little costumes, and we would set shit on fire and get all crazy and wild. And then we would have people that would come and sit in with us, the Fishbone guys or the Primus guys or something would always, Jerry Cantrell of Mouse and Chains would come and sit in with us. So we would always try to spice it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a couple of things there because you said you're not as wild as you were. And from the footage I've been seeing, especially like around Kehoe Nation, there is a conspicuous lack of ladies coming up on stage to cut your scrub, man. So you can hit that note.
When I was young, I was quite attractive, but that kind of fell out the way.
Oh, okay. That's the X factor there. I got you. Okay.
Also, I got married, so that kind of puts the old kibosh on that.
But
my wife doesn't like that.
Yeah, well, I guess I understand. That's
private property. You know what I'm saying? That's private property.
At that point, exclusive access, I suppose. Then I guess you can understand those limitations. I mentioned that because, you guys did, I was too young to get out there and see any M.I.R.V shows, but I just, it was the infancy of the internet, and M.I.R.V was much like Primus. Those two bands were on the cutting edge as far as getting your stuff out onto the internet. So guys like me, 2,000 miles away in the Midwest could see it and just go, these guys are awesome. I really appreciated that.
I remember M.I.R.V was one of the first bands to have their own website.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? That's because Craig, the bass player, worked at Silicon Graphics SGI. He was on the cutting edge of that stuff, and M.I.R.V lived in Cupertino.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, and so he lived 2 blocks away from what became the Apple. What's that loop? The Apple Loop.
Right.
And I believe that M.I.R.V's family, old Italian family, they had like orchards that are now owned by Apple.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of that fertile ground, pun intended.
Right.
That, so those guys were really in the middle of that whole internet boom. And they still working it,
Oh, cool. one thing I really did appreciate about M.I.R.V, Primus, and these bands, one of the first bands to really embrace the internet, so I could really, like, you know, for a fan, it was just like, wow, these guys really care. You know, I don't know how much of that came through to you, but it was like, wow, they want us to know. You know, they want us to be in the know, see the pictures, you know, see the video.
Well, I'm going to say this. I think that comes from the whole DIY thing that we all came from, throwing our own shows and doing our own thing, and just moving forward. And this just seemed like an avenue that, you know, was worth going down and discovering and growing with it to, you know, reach out to get to more people and do more stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm. And I would love to hear your opinion on this too, because I am curious about your personally your musical influences as a kid and then getting into high school and beyond, because it just seems like when in that Bay Area, you could, as you said, you could go to any old club on any old night and see a great show, and I'm guessing it could be any old kind of music. So were you purposefully branching out to take in as much as you could? Because from what we've seen over the years with the different bands and albums and performances that you've done, it's quite widely varied.
I think that at the time I didn't think of it like that, but as I look back, I go, oh yeah, that was on purpose. But when I was a real little kid, the first music that I was introduced to, just like anybody else, is the stuff that their parents would listen to, right?
Yeah.
And my mom and my dad was a screaming crazy radical, and my mom was like a peace love beatnik turned hippie. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we listened to a lot of the Beatles, of course. And my mom, when I was like 3 years old, took me to go see all these concerts at Winterland and at the Fillmore and the Panhandle at Golden Gate Park. And I saw the Grateful Dead, the Doors, Jimi Hendrix, but I don't remember any of this. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was just a naked kid running around eating apples, you know? But they listened to a lot of jazz. They listened to a lot of folk music. They listened to a wide, varied spectrum of artistic stuff. And so I was exposed to that. Uh-huh. And I think that just translated as I started, you know, coming into my own and being a little more autonomous. I would listen to the radio, and, you know, top 40 back in those days was pretty varied. You'd listen to any of the AM channels, and you would get a wide variety of stuff. There'd be Deep Purple on one second. The next second would be Sly and the Family Stones, James Brown, nice. You know, the Carpenters. And I loved it all, and I listened to it all the time, and I just dug it. And then I would go out and get my own records. I remember I saved up my allowance. It was in the third grade or the fourth grade. I can't remember what it was. I saved up my allowance, and I went to the record store because I was going to go buy my own record. Buy my own records.
That's exciting.
I went through the whole record store. I was there for hours. This is back in the days when kids could just go and take the bus, and you didn't have to worry about all kinds of crazy shit because our parents didn't give a shit. They're like, whatever. They're smoking reefer and drinking martinis. And get the fuck out of here, kid. So we went down to the record store, and I picked out 3 albums that I bought. And I picked these records out because they had the coolest record covers. The first one I bought was Sly and the Family Stones' Greatest Hits.
Nice.
Second one I bought was Tommy, The Who. Uh-huh. And the third one I bought was James Brown, Black Caesar.
Wow.
Because I liked the record covers. I didn't know anything about any of these artists. I never even heard of them. I didn't care. I got those 3 records because they look cool.
Wow. Man, you picked 3 good ones too. 3.
I did. I lucked out.
Wow. And then
I still listen to those records today.
Yeah. I'm connecting this to my own personal experience of doing something similar, and it was yours, right? Because you got to pick them out, buy them with your own money, and then these things were yours. They were in your hand.
Right.
And I did that get you started on the road, I guess?
That's a big deal. And then I was also a big fan of Dr. Demento. So they would have the Dr. Demento show on whatever radio station late at night.
Yeah.
And I also loved film and movies. So I liked movie soundtracks and all that stuff. So that kind of opened everything up as far as my listening, what I like to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool that you had this, you got to have this exploratory period. I think for me, it's funny because Primus and M.I.R.V and bands like that were in my musical awakening, I suppose. But for me, it was more of a rebellion because my parents, they would play the Beatles every once in a while, but only when we were cleaning the house, I guess to energize us or something.
Oh, no, that's a bad association, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh, I'm vacuuming again. Those damn Beatles. But then
that would
otherwise,
bum me out.
they would listen to like Dan Fogelberg and Chuck Mangione, this flugelhorn player, which like I can appreciate it now, but at the time was like, I need something. I'm having flashbacks.
That's Chuck Mangione. What was the name of that song? Was it Rise or something?
I don't remember the names anymore. I probably blocked him out on purpose, Chuck
Mangione was the Kenny G of his time.
Oh boy, was he smooth. Too smooth
fuck that. We hated that shit.
So I had to go the other way. So, when I heard a lot of these Bay Area bands, and then including like Metallica and the thrashier stuff, I was just like, this is it for me. Like, cause it was totally the opposite. So I felt really good, getting into that stuff. So,
well, you tend to find stuff, right, that's going to piss your parents off, right?
That's where I went.
Yeah. I mean, my cousin, who is 3 years older than me, he turned me on to 3 records that fucked me up. Well, didn't fuck me up, but just got me going on the rock train.
Yeah, man.
And I think it was like 1970, I want to say 1973, it must have been 1973 or 1974. He turned me on to Deep Purple, Machine Head.
Nice.
Black Sabbath, Paranoid.
Oh, yeah.
And Montrose, the first Montrose record.
Oh, sure, yeah. Oh, those are like foundational records.
And then right then and there, I went, oh, dude, hard rock. What's this hard rock? What is this? And then from there, it was all, we branched off and it was just all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah. But those 3 records, I must have been like 10 years old. Maybe I was 11.
You really got to dig in at a really cool time, too. Man, there
was a lot of good records. Dude. And then I think another record that he turned me on to that summer, because we went to go visit my grandparents up in the mountains. We spent the summer with our grandparents, and he brought all these records. And another one was, what was it? It was Allman Brothers Eat a Peach.
Uh-huh.
And then a Mahogany Rush record. I forget which one it was. And then we got into like Robert and Trower, and then he turned me on to UFO.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Right on. So you have a really good grounding in that area for sure. And I'm curious too how that informed your guitar playing, because I know that, and everybody listening knows that you can play guitar like a son of a bitch. So like you're really, I love watching you play.
I don't know all about that. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Well, I am curious about a couple of things. I'm curious about your guitar playing because I was watching a bunch of Kehoe Nation videos in the last couple of weeks, and man, that stuff verges on psychobilly, which is a genre that somebody turned me on to many years ago, and I really enjoy it. So I was like, this was right up my alley. I was like, man, how did I miss out on Kehoe Nation? So, but you do some really great stuff throughout all your projects. So I am curious how that grounding in rock music really informs it. And then the other one is your different vocal styles. Cause you've got that growl, which is really cool. That really deep growl that you do. And then, of course, and Frankie wants me to do this because, the O Sole Mio thing is one of my favorite things in the world.
Oh, yes. I begged Josh to do a O Sole Mio impersonation for you, Bryan, so you can judge it.
So the reason I have kind of a connection to it is because my Gramps, when he would get out of his chair after a nap, he would, he'd take him a little bit to get up, but as he's getting up, he'd go, "Oh, sole mio,"
Oh, my son.
Yeah. Just to give that expression and to let everybody know he was in pain, when you're playing in Blind Illusion, there probably isn't that much call to do that. And I really can only do it in like an operatic falsetto thing that, "Que bella cosa," you don't get to do that much when Blind Illusion, but where'd that come from?
So what we ended up doing is, we had a side project called Kaka, which was a Frank Zappa cover band, right? And we had M.I.R.V and House and Brain from the Limbo Maniacs. Yep. And we had a bunch of other people would come in. Larry would play with us. Mm-hmm. And then, dude, Matt Wheeler would sing. He would be the Frank Zappa guy. And then like me and Zoe Ellis from the Mofessionals and the Braids, we would kind of be like the background singers and stuff like that. Well, this one time they were doing Sofa 2. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I remember the name, but
it's sung opera style.
Okay.
And they're like, who's going to sing it? I go, I can totally sing that, because I was always goofing around with the fake, stupid opera voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was always doing the cartoon, you know, la 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 ha ha, la 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 ha. And so I did that. And they're like, oh, dude, you could totally do it. But then here's a little side note a lot of people don't know is that I had my own, we had this band back before any of this other stuff, and I hated our singer. And I was like, dude, I'm just going to have to sing, but I was a shitty singer. And what I realized is I went and took singing lessons, and I took singing lessons from this lady who helped Frank Sinatra overcome a paralyzed vocal cord. And she taught the Caruso method, Enrico Caruso, the famous opera singer.
Okay.
And so just all that technique, and I studied really, really hard because I didn't want to suck. And I hated singers. And I figured, fuck it, dude, I'm going to have to sing. And I didn't really want to do it, but I was like, fuck it, I can do it. I'll do it. I'll just do it. So anyway, we did the Sofa thing. Ich bin I forget how the words are. But, and then I did it, and then Les was at the show, and he goes, holy shit, that's the most amazing thing I've ever fucking seen, dude. You got to do that in your M.I.R.V show. And so M.I.R.V's mom, God bless her heart, rest in peace, love Sabina. She was Italian, and she spoke Italian fluently.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, and I told her, I said, so we want to do an opera song. What do you think it'd be? Oh, you got to do O Sole Mio. It's this beautiful love song. It's a folk love song from the 8th century and all this stuff. Here, I'll teach you the words. And she wrote them all down. And I went and listened to the Caruso version of it. And then we figured it all out. M.I.R.V figured out all the cool orchestrations for the guitar and stuff like that. Yeah. And we ended up doing it at a show one time, and everyone was like, what the fuck is that? That's the fucking craziest thing ever. And it was a joke.
Yeah.
It was a fucking joke. And now, 25 plus years later, dude, if I don't do the opera song, I'm going to have to do the opera song every performance until the day I die. That's just all there is to it, dude.
Well, now I feel bad for asking.
I love it.
Well, it definitely got you some notoriety in it because it just stands out because it's so different, and that's fantastic that it came from the family, Yeah,
it came from the family, and it was pretty cool.
I know Frankie's dying to try to stump you with a lot of details from over the years performing with Les. I got one more question for you.
Yes.
What's the status of Kehoe Nation? You guys doing? I mean, nobody's doing anything right now, but are you guys going to be around?
What I did is the Kehoe Nation was another joke. That was just a bunch of people that would come over to my mom's house for holidays, and they weren't like blood relatives, but we just called it the Kehoe Nation or the Goon Squad. And so when I started my band, I was like, we'll just call it the Kehoe Nation as a joke, right? But I never really liked the name. Mm-hmm. And then we changed it. I changed it. I mean, it's the same format. It's the same music. It's the same, all the goofy shit in my head. And we called it now Kehoe International because I was talking with Gene Hoglan, Gene from Testament. He's the Atomic Clock. He's the drummer for Death Clock and all that. He has Hoglan Industries. That's the name of his business entity. And I go, oh, dude, that's heavy, dude. I want to do that. I'm going to be Kehoe International. And I'm just going to tell everybody now that we went public and we're trading on the stock market now. We're on New York Stock Exchange. Kehoe International.
I love it.
So anyway, we were gigging all the way up until the COVID weirdness. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote 100 songs in the last year and a half, and I'm in the middle of putting them all together. And I just coughed up a bunch of dough for an Apollo interface and Logic, and we're just going to start recording. Fuck it, like everybody else. Everybody else, what are you going to do? I don't know. We'll just write and record a bunch of records. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, let us know when those are coming out because I'm all about it.
I mean, I don't. I'm at the age now that it's more like a hobby and it's just a lot of fun. And I don't think that, these recordings are going to go and be top tens, anything. We're not trying to do anything but just, create, have fun and just put them out. And I'm thinking about just doing it on Bandcamp because it just seems like the way to go. I keep hearing about, I'm not really a Spotify guy. And it's like, that dude is such a jackass. I'm just not into that scene, I mean, right. I do use Amazon Music, but I pay for Amazon Prime. I might as well utilize the music part of it. And I'm not really a big fan of the whole streaming thing.
Right.
So, I'm torn about that because, as a user and a listener, it's great to have everything at my fingertips. But then as an artist, I'm like, oh, well, at least these guys aren't getting fucking paid. Right. And because what I do for my job, working at Dunlop, the guitar accessories company.
Right.
That's my job.
Right.
And so I do, artist relations and product development, marketing and all this fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
But, I talk to all these like huge artists and they're like, dude, back in the day when it was terrestrial radio, the checks were just flying in. And now, they're trickling in. Guys who you would get, $250,000, $500,000 quarterly are now getting, $1,000, $5,000. Like what was the one, Peter Frampton? He was like, yeah, I got 40 million plays of I Want You to Show Me the Way. And I got like $5,000. He's like, that's not even enough for me to pay my crew.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember who it was. It might've been somebody in the Foo Fighters or something was like, here's my check for 1 cent. It's like right. The Foo Fighters, those guys sell 1 billion records. Oh my goodness.
I'd rather just have it fucking for free. Yeah. Like, fuck it. I'd rather give it to people for free and not have to fucking worry about, whatever. Fucking Jeff Bezos making another fucking $1,000 billion. Oh, you know what? I did the math too. If you made $250,000 every single day, $250,000 every day from the time Jesus was born until today, you still wouldn't have as much money as Jeff Bezos.
He'd be pissing on you still. Oh my gosh.
$250,000 a day for, 2,020 years. You still wouldn't have. I mean, do people really need that much fucking money?
Yeesh. It makes you think about it for sure. You're just like,
I did the math and I was like, holy shit. I was still, 30 million short.
Yeah.
30 billion, or 20 billion. It's crazy.
Yeah. You mentioned Dunlop. I saw some videos from you. I think you were at NAMM, in January, which is weird to think that you were at a big gathering in 2020, but there you were. But I thought, man, this guy, the way that you operate on stage and as a person and just talking to us here, I'm like, this guy's a natural to do that kind of thing. So how's that job?
Job is great. It's the job that I would do. If I didn't work there, I would still just be geeking out on gear all day, every day. You know what I mean? Coming up with goofy ass ideas. And the guy that I'm on stage, either with my band or whoever, and the guy that is out there at Dunlop, but sometimes because it's a commercial entity, I got to tone it down a little bit. Yeah. But that's the same dude that I'm at home. That's my daughter's like, oh, Dad, you're so goofy. You're so stupid. You stink. But, whatever. I'm just that guy.
That means you're having a good time because I hear that from my sisters.
I'm trying to do the best I can with what I got.
That's right. That's excellent, man.
Right here always helps. Whoop-de-doo. Hey, how you doing?
A little spotting. All right, Frankie. I've kept you locked up long enough. It's time to unleash Frankie on you.
Okay, here comes the hard stuff. Alex Trebek.
First of all, thanks so much for joining us, Bryan. It's an honor to speak with you. Before I ask my question, I would like to play a little song for you. So please listen to this track.
Okay.
So that's called Ancient Mariner, and it's a song that you actually co-wrote with Les Claypool back in 2003. It was rehearsed a couple of times, but it never made it to the stage. So I would really love to have some insight from you regarding this legendary Bolt track.
Well, Les Claypool wrote that song based on the Milton. I think it's Milton. I forgot. What's the Ancient Mariner? Is that Milton? No,
Coleridge.
Yeah, Aldrich. So that's that famous poem.
Right.
And story. But Les wrote that when we were in Blind Illusion in I want to say 1980, 81 maybe.
Really?
And we played that. We actually played that song with Blind Illusion a couple of times. And I think that version, which was really hard to hear, but I think that version might have been bootlegged at a sound check. Does that sound right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's from a Frog Brigade sound check from 2003.
Frog Brigade sound check. And I want to say it might have been at Wow Hall in Eugene, Oregon. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wow. Considering the fact that I had 2 brain cells, that was pretty good memory.
Yeah, that was great recall, man.
So we were screwing around, but, Les likes to mess around and do stuff. And, we were talking about, we should do some of that old stuff. We're like, yeah, let's do it. And then we screwed around and then, just a flight of fancy. At one minute, we're going to do this. And the next minute, we're going to launch off into some free jam in the middle of, the Purple Onion. Who cares?
Wow, that is really fascinating, Bryan. And, it's a revelation for me because I've been wondering about this song for years. And it's a really excellent song. And I was wondering if you guys ever recorded a studio version of this one, or did it just stay as a soundcheck jam?
I don't know what Les did with that. I mean, we played it back in the olden days when we were just kids, and then we were screwing around with it for those couple of days, and then whatever happened after that, I lost touch with that. So there's no recording that I remember. I don't know if he did anything with it.
And do you know why it never made it into an actual show?
I don't know. I mean, Les is pretty focused on what he wants to do, what he wants to accomplish, and how he wants to present his stuff. And maybe he just didn't feel that one. I really can't speak for him, but just working with him and, being his friend and being a huge fan, he probably didn't feel that was his best work, or he would have done it.
All right. My next question, Bryan, is regarding Reformed Horse, because there are so many wonderful recordings of you guys doing Pipeline with them. And I was wondering what it was like for you to tour with them as the openers for Duo De Twang.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Those ladies are some of the smartest, funniest, well-read, coolest people that I got to hang out and tour with. Those ladies are just hilarious, and they were just so great night after night. Great camaraderie, great friends. I just love those guys. And when we were done with the tours and they decided that they were going to do a new record, I don't know if you know this or not, but I was like, look, dude, I got a lot of contacts down in Nashville. I'm all like, we need to get you into one of those fancy ass studios and go down there. And I got a bunch of buddies that are top notch, first call Nashville session guys. And we're going to do this record right. And so we booked it all. I booked it all. I was going to produce it. And then my flight got canceled, and we were on a tight schedule that by the time I got there, I would have missed all the recording. No. So I called up the engineer, and I think they did it at the old RCA studios. I called the engineer and I gave him all my notes, and the girls were fucking pissed off at me. But I was like, look, dude, my flight canceled, and it was the last flight of the night, and I can't get there until the end of the next day where you guys are going to be done. So I got a co-production credit on that record, but they really just did it all themselves. I booked all the musicians. I gave them all my notes, and they just killed it, man. They killed it. I love those guys. I still follow them on the Instagrams every now and again, send them birthday wishes and text them. They're awesome. You're going to see, they're going to be huge one day. They're going to fuck around and get on some TV show, or they're going to do something, because they're constantly acting, constantly writing, constantly playing music, constantly writing like comedy skits, and they have all their shows online and stuff like that. They're powerhouses, creative powerhouses. It was an honor to meet them, to work with them, but more importantly, to be their friend, you know?
That's amazing. Speaking of guests that you had on stage as Duo De Twang, several people joined you on stage to perform. I mean, even Cage Claypool was there to perform with you guys. But
the old banjo.
Oh yeah. But what really struck me as amazing was that not only once, but on 2 occasions, you had Larry Lalonde on stage performing Over the Falls with you guys. So one was back in 2013 in Los Angeles, and the other really amazing performance took place in 2015. And for that one, you had not only Larry, but you also had Brain Mantia on stage performing Over the Falls with you. So it was the first one, was like a surprise appearance from Lur. And the second was like a mini Primus Brown album reunion. So what was it like for you to play with those guys on stage, such an iconic Primus number?
Well, first of all, Larry and I go way back because, he was in Blind Illusion after I had left.
Right.
And then, Larry's one of my favorite humans on the planet, and he's also one of my favorite guitar players. I think that as far as a lot of guitar players are around here, I think that he's one of the unsung geniuses. Just his approach to playing the guitar, and I know from playing with Les for so long, Les is doing so much. I mean, he's playing bass, he's playing drums, he's playing rhythm guitar all at once. It's so amazing, but it's kind of hard to figure out, what am I going to do here? And Larry has made a career out of just picking out the greatest tones and sounds and the melodies that you normally wouldn't think of, but they become, they just become fabric of the Primus sound, where the melodies and his guitar playing, and he's like, I don't think they would be Primus without Lur, and I don't think people realize that.
Yep. Yeah, I think Frankie and I definitely agree on that. And when we're breaking down these tracks as we go along, a lot of the times we just go, we're like, the bass is doing this and the drums is doing this, and then whatever the hell Larry's doing. It's so hard to analyze for us, at least.
Well, between what Tim is doing, I mean, Tim is a busy drummer, and Les is a busy bass player. There's a lot of shit going on, dude, and trying to stick and weave and put stuff in. It's like, dude, here, play. Well, where? No room.
Yeah.
But Lur is able to figure it out. That's why he's a genius. And he uses texture and timbre and note selection to really create a wonderful sound pastiche of what his whole thing is, man. He's such a badass. A lot of people don't realize that, he's one of the inventors of death metal, right?
Right.
He was in Possessed.
Right.
And they had that song Death Metal, and Lur was a shredder. A lot of people don't know that. They hear all, this angular kind of style, but they don't realize that Lur can shred, dude. He can play all that Frank Zappa shit. He can play all that Van Halen shit. I mean, he's a fucking monster guitar player.
Yeah, I was curious about that. That I assume at points, with Kaka and other things, you've jammed with the guy. So just hearing when he lets loose, and it sounds like he can do whatever he wants. But I'm curious because sometimes I'm just like, do it, man. And I'm just curious what it's like when he goes off the deep end.
The best is when we're just screwing around and fucking off and having beers, and then he just lets loose and he just starts fucking killing it. But the one thing I did want to say is about that 2015 show. That 2015 show was a benefit show for our good friend Eddie Jennings. Eddie Jennings was a guy that booked a lot of shows out of San Francisco at this place called the I-Beam, and then he ran the Jack's bar scene with Jack's Sugar Shack and other Jack's bars that were like kind of a blues thing. But he took care of all of his artists coming up, and Eddie would say, you know what, man, if you're on your way up or you're on your way down, you come through me, baby. And even though he was, a lot of people thought he was an asshole, but I always looked at what he did, and he always paid the bands. He always fed them. He got them drinks. He got them shows. He always had our backs. And even though he was a little abrasive, he always took care of the scene, always took care of the musicians and the artists. So in 2015, he got cancer,
Yeah.
And so we did this benefit concert, and I was asked to be the MC, and I was moved to be asked to do that. And they had so many good bands on that. They had Kaka, and then we had that impromptu Primus thing where we got to play over the falls with Brain and Lur. And I think that was the first time that I think Les and Brain had played together since Brain left.
Right.
It's kind of a big deal because, I think we did another Duo De Twang song, and then we played the song with Pearl Harbor, who I love. And that night was something really, really, really special. Not just being able to sit in with an impromptu Primus Brown album reunion, but just that whole night, this special thing for our good friend Eddie Jennings, who we all just love so much. And you can see how the whole musical community came together for him. Unfortunately, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Eddie lost his battle and moved on. And so that is why it was it's poignant that you bring it up now because it's so fresh that we lost Eddie. But it was a really special time in all of our lives when Eddie was taking care of the scene back in the late 80s and early 90s, but also that we were able to lift his spirits and help him out with some dough and some medical bills and all that stuff for that concert because we all just loved Eddie so much.
Yeah,
that's 2 cents on that question.
I wanted to ask you a question, Bryan, regarding Duo De Twang.
Nope, sorry. Done. We're done.
I'm very fond of a particular show where Les, out of the blue, he asks a member in the audience to pick a string from your guitar. Oh. And this person just points to a string, and then Les says, all right, so for the following song, Bryan has to perform his entire solo on the G string. And it's such a hilarious moment in that recording. Yeah. And, the thing, yeah. So the thing is that with other bands, Les always gave each band member a moment to shine and a moment to have a solo. But with Duo De Twang, you had this huge weight on your shoulders because it's just you and him. So he would put you on the spot all the time like that. And I'm wondering how you felt in those moments where, you had to step up to the challenges that he set up for you each night.
Well, I think he was fucking with me. But it was fun. I mean, it was hard. It was hard. And some nights, dude, I would fucking suck. I would completely suck. And then you replay it in your brain. And you're like, oh my God, I fucking suck so bad. I fucking hate myself. And then you have to realize that, you just got to let it go, dude. Get back up there. It's like Reggie Jackson, right? Nobody knows that Reggie Jackson is Mr. October. He's got 5 World Series rings or whatever like that. Everybody knows Reggie Jackson is the king, right? But nobody knows that he's the strikeout leader.
Right. Right, yeah.
You just got to get back up there and take your cuts, man. Some nights are going to be fucked, and some nights it's going to be, you're going to get lucky, and it's going to seem like it's genius. And the whole time we're flying by the seat of our pants. Yeah. And it's naked. We're naked. Yeah. At the Duo De Twang, that is a naked gig. You're out there in your underwear, and you're like, fuck it, dude. I got to make this happen. And I think that, at the time I was a little frustrated. I'm going, fuck. No, not just one string. Fuck, what am I going to do? But then afterwards, you're like, fuck, that was super fun. People liked it. And, that's all that really matters, dude, is if you're in the moment and you could do something that puts a smile on somebody's face, whether or not you're sucking or you're not sucking or whatever the fuck your ego is telling you were doing or not doing, doesn't really matter, because in the end, if you're able to make the world a more buoyant and happy place to be, that's really all that really fucking matters, dude.
Yeah.
Whether I think I fucking suck and I want to go home and fucking beat myself up, doesn't matter, dude. If one kid comes out of there and is fucking smiling and go, fuck it, dude, I'm going to go pick up a guitar, or I'm going to learn how to play slide, or I'm going to learn how to play bass, or whatever it is, that's all that fucking matters, really.
I will say you did a great job hedging. The one Duo De Twang show I got to witness was the Hemp Fest here in Southern Oregon a few years ago. And you hedged very well by, I think, one of the first things, like right at the first song or right before it, you said, well, before we came out here, I smoked a shitload of weed. So I forgave you right there. And whatever happened after was fine.
The funny thing is I quit smoking weed in the 80s. Like, I don't smoke weed, but that night I remember I smoked a bunch of weed. I was fucking high. I was like, oh, dude, I hope I don't fuck this up.
That was a good
this
night.
weed you kids are smoking nowadays is wrong.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And we did a dab festival down in San Bernardino, Southern California. And the guys are like, hey, you want a dab? You want a dab? I'm like, fuck. No, dude, you got a beer? I'm at home with the beer. I can handle a beer.
Yeah.
I can't handle no dab, dude. That's some hard shit. Dude.
Yeah. Ooh.
I was wondering, Bryan, how much input did you have regarding the songs for the 4 Foot Shack album? Did you have any say in any of the songs that made it to the record, or was it all Les who chose the track list?
Well, I mean, when you work with Les has a really solid vision of what he wants to do. So you really want to support what he's doing because he's not fucking around, dude. He's focused. He puts a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
He's like I said, he's focused and he's working on that stuff. And, if he asks you something, it's free reign, hey, dude, I think we should do this. And then he thinks about it. He goes, yeah, okay. Or he goes, nah, it's fucking stupid. You suck. But for most part, almost all of that was all Les, except for I think that I suggested Man in a Box and I think it was M.I.R.V, because M.I.R.V did the first couple of shows and then he couldn't do the gig anymore because he had work obligations.
Yeah.
M.I.R.V wanted to do the Pipeline. He wanted to do a surf thing.
Yeah.
And then I think that's about it. Oh, it didn't make the record, but here's the funny little story is we were fucking around one day on the bus and he started playing South Park. And I'm all like, bro, no, I was playing South Park. I'm sorry. I was playing the South Park thing. And I go, dude, we should do that song. Yeah, no, it's cheesy. And I go, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? That's the biggest song you've ever written. More people know that song than anything else combined of all the stuff that you have done. I'm surprised. I go, do you guys ever do that show live? He's like, no. And I'm all like, he goes, it's cheesy. It's stupid. And I go, dude, I'm telling you right now. I go, let's play that song and see what happens. And then that night we went out there, we played that song, and it was insane how the crowd sang all the kids' parts and Les sang his part. And he's like, holy shit, that went over great. And we did that, I don't know, just about every night after that. And then they actually went on and Primus started doing it. People were losing their fucking minds. I was like, dude, that is the song. But it didn't make the record.
I wanted to go over a few tracks with you, Bryan, which sadly didn't make the record, but they were amazing live. The first one is a really, Les Claypool solo monster track, which is One Better. The original has very, very sparse guitar. The center of attention is bass. And he translated that bass line perfectly to the Duo De Twang setting. But then he left you with the huge responsibility of filling the rest of the space of the song with your guitar. And, it's such a complex song. I was wondering how you tackled that one for the shows.
That was a tough one. Honestly, that was kind of tough because, it's funky. That's a funky jam, right? That's a super funky jam where you can hear that he got that pentatonic riff, probably listening to the Isley Brothers or some shit like that. But that is a badass funk jam. And doing that on that resonator, because I'm not typically like a resonator type player. It doesn't have a sustain, and it was just kind of clanky. So it was really hard. Those Duo De Twang shows were really physical for me because trying to get around on that clanky resonator was tough. At the end of the show, even though we're sitting down the whole time, like at the end of the show, like my body was just all tense. And I felt like I had just jumped for 8 hours because getting around on that instrument was kind of tough. And Les didn't want any reverb, and Les didn't want any compression. He wanted the sound of that clanky resonator through that Fender Deluxe, and that was that, dude. Yeah. And it's not easy trying to get around. I mean, I'm used to a little gain, I'm used to a little compression, I'm used to being able to, kind of flow a little bit. But man, you hit a note and it just goes clank, and it just lays there, and you got to force that thing out, man. Especially when I was playing a bunch of slide, there's no sustain. Pew, pew, pew. And you got to force that shit. And the whole time, dude, my brain and my body, I'm like, oh my God. So it was super challenging, but it was so much fun. And I think it made me a better player, but it was really, really tough. And especially playing songs, I think that, One Better was a tough one. And then what did we do? That was really, really
Oh, Tommy the Cat. I was wondering what that was like for you.
Well, he would just throw those in there like as quotes. So it wasn't like we did Tommy the Cat like all the way through. We would be doing one of the normal Duo De Twang songs, and then all of a sudden he would just go off on a tangent. And you know what? I got to follow him. I got to chase him around the stage. Going, okay, here we go. What's going to happen next? Oh, shit. And then he would go into Black Sabbath, Paranoid, or Iron Man. Like, oh, no, here we go. And I just would have to, I'd have to listen. And I had to really pay attention, or he would turn around and he'd call me out in front of, 2,000 people. All right, Kehoe, you fucked that up, man. You suck. Don't suck, man. Don't make me look bad. I don't want to make it look bad. I don't want to make me look bad. I don't want my kid to go, Dad, you suck.
I attended the silver anniversary extravaganza, Brian, and it was really amazing to see Duo De Twang and then Claypool and on Delirium and then Primus. But even though I got to see the three bands, the following morning, all I could think about was that I witnessed Buzzers of Green Hill live, which is one of my all-time favorite songs from Les Claypool. And it was even more amazing because Skerrick joined you guys on stage with his saxophone.
Yeah.
And for me, that song is one of the stars of the record. So I'm wondering if you had fun with that one.
Well, when I first joined the Frog Brigade, Les had called me up and he goes, okay, dude, Kehoser, I need you to do this tour with me. Can you do the tour? I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking do the tour. And I go, you know what? I'm not really like a jam band kind of guy. Uh-huh. He goes, nah, I know, but you'll do fine. I'll be fine. Here, learn these 40 songs. Like, what? He goes, yeah, here's all the songs. Learn these 40 songs. And then we're going to do a different set every single night.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
And we're going to do 3 to 4 hour sets. And we're only going to play 8 songs.
Yeah.
Right? And so before that, I never really played slide. And, that's all Warren Haynes on that song, right? That's Warren Haynes singing and playing a slide on that song. And I never really learned how to play slide that well. And I had to work so hard every night. Like, even though we did 4-hour sets, which is a lot of fucking work.
Yep.
Every waking moment on the tour bus, I was practicing all these different songs. So you never knew what he was going to fucking call out. And I was practicing and learning all the slide shit. I was like, fuck, dude, this is hard. But it was rad. And then one day, here comes Warren Haynes. Warren Haynes is coming up on the stage. I just handed him my guitar and my slide. I go, good luck. See you later. Fuck off. I'm out. But that's a great jam, though. And honestly, that song in particular got me into playing slide. And now I play slide all the time, and I'm a lot more confident on it. I don't know if I'm any good, but I'm a lot more confident, and I feel good about it. It's super fun. Slide playing is fucking fun. And that's what got me into it.
Right on. Oh, being forced got you into it.
Yeah. So we're close to the end, Brian. We don't want to keep you any longer. And you answered one of my Frog Brigade questions with your input regarding Buzzers of Green Hill. So my last question is about Hats Off, which is, such a rare Primus song. It's very rarely performed, and Duo De Twang got to play it quite a few times. So I'm wondering, what was that song like for you on stage?
Honestly, that's not one of my favorite Primus songs. So it was all right. It was all right. I way rather liked playing like Winona was pretty good. That was a lot of fun. And Over the Falls, I really like playing that stuff. But, Hats Off is cool. It's all right. My least favorite Les Claypool song, and he knows this, is Dee's Diner. I was like,
oh, you got a lot in common with Josh.
that one just wasn't my favorite,
Yeah.
But that's all right. I mean, Primus, like the sausage demo, that they had done was probably, I would say, it just represents a great time in my life, and I would have to say that maybe even still to today is probably my favorite Primus offering, only because it represents that time of my life, and I had such a great time just going out to shows and hanging out with those guys and the Limbo Maniacs and that whole scene. It was just, it was super rad, dude.
Did you hold on to your cassette tape after all these years?
I have it somewhere. I bet I have it right here. Where the hell is it? I bet I have that right here at my feet. I have this old thing I just got from my mom's house. It has all my old cassettes that she's been sitting. She's like, you got to get rid of this fucking piece of shit. I'm looking, I'm digging. No, I don't see it. There was another band called The Smoking Section was another one of my favorite ones. Fungo Mungo.
Yeah.
All those bands, man, we love those bands. I found it. Hold on.
Oh.
Are you guys
great?
There it is.
Awesome.
I found it. That's the original one.
That's awesome.
Cool. Can you show us the tape to see the handwriting?
Yeah, there it is, dude. Primus.
Oh, there it is.
Awesome.
Handwritten.
Sweet.
By Les. Side 1. And then it's just side 2.
That's so cool.
That's rad.
Isn't that badass? I wonder if this even fucking plays anymore. Dude, I don't even think I have a fucking tape recorder. I don't think I have a cassette player anymore. Oh, yeah. Here's all the handwritten credits, too.
Oh, yeah.
I am a proud owner of one as well, Brian, and it's one of my most valuable Primus possessions.
Yeah, you can have this one for $10,000.
All right, man. I'm gonna go collect as many cans as I can get my hands on. Owned by Bryan
I found it. I didn't think I was gonna find it. Oh, here's the first Buckethead one too. Woo!
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, dude, you've got some artifacts, man.
Yeah, I got some artifacts. Here's the Smoking Section. These guys ruled, man. That was a good band.
Oh, I don't know that name. I'm going to have to look them up.
You got to look that one up. And here's the Fungo Mungo demo.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, killer.
Oh, Brian, let me show you something really cool.
Oh, dude.
So this is even before the Sausage one. This is from '88. It's the first release Les ever put out.
Really? What songs are on that?
This one has Tommy the Cat, Temporary Face, Sgt. Baker, and 11. All of them early versions.
I don't think that was out before the Sausage one. Oh,
so you think this is after the Sausage one?
I'm almost sure it is. Well, let me tell you what. I think we're running out of time here. I got to go feed my family. It was great hanging out with you guys. If you have any more questions, maybe we could do this again sometime in the future.
That would be great,
that would be amazing, Brian. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was super fun, man. I hope I got answered your questions. And
you totally did. I mean, you finally put an end to the Ancient Mariner mystery. Thank you so much.
There it is, dude. I was there.
Asking everybody about that.
No mystery. I like that song, man. That song was that was a badass song back in the early days.
Nice. Yeah, it'd be great to talk to you again sometime. And once again, thanks for your time. And man, it was really fun talking to you.
Right on.